Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Homewrecker podcast. I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique. Monique, how are you today?
Hello, I'm doing better today. Thank you. How are you?
Fantastic as always. Better today as opposed to better what?
Well,
What does that mean?
I wasn't feeling great the
Oh,
past couple of
goodness.
days, and I think the episode we're going to talk about is perfect timing.
Heavens.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better
Me
today.
too.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What's going on with you? Anything new, exciting, fun you'd like to talk about?
Well, I will do quick plugs if you're interested.
Plug it.
I'm going to plug it, baby. If you're
That
interested.
sounded just
That sounded wrong.
Very wrong.
Well, I got in my head
I'm going to
instead
just
of rocket.
put it out there right now. I'm not into plugging of any kind. Damn it.
Well, I was going to say
Yikes.
Def Leppard's Rocket instead of Rocket. Yeah, I was thinking plug it. Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, no.
Okay. I guess it's just my mind went right to the gutter.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Anywho.
All right, then.
If you're interested in hypnotherapy, go to innerstandingshypnosis.com. You can schedule a one-on-one appointment with me. You can get a free 20-minute consult, or you can try a digital download. And if you're interested in tarot readings, organite, candles, anything like that, go to tarotbymonique.com.
There you have it.
Anything with you?
Yeah.
You want to share?
Yeah, we watched the Nothing But a Good Time limited docuseries
Yes.
on Paramount Plus. It was awesome.
I know
enjoyed it.
We just did an episode on, we were talking about music. We kind of just went on
kinda-
a whole tangent on music.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about what we were going to talk about. We ended up talking about music.
Yes.
So, yeah. But yeah, we watched it just came out. Well, as we're recording, it just came out like last week, but I don't know, whenever this comes out, when you're hearing it, who knows? But it's on Paramount Plus. If you have Paramount Plus, check it out. It's awesome. And if you don't have Paramount Plus, I think they do those little trial free month or whatever. Definitely check it out. It's worth it. It's awesome. It's if you're into 80s music, 80s rock and roll, hair metal, they call it, whatever, then it's definitely awesome. It's a great, great show.
It is a great show, and I feel like we're going to have to do a part 2, a follow-up to that other episode talking about music.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because after we finished recording that show, we found out a bunch of other stuff that happened that would have been perfect to talk about during that show. But yeah, such is life.
Okay.
Like you said, that's why we'll probably end up doing a part 2 down the road. All right. Well, I think what we're going to be talking about today, like you kind of hinted at, you foreshadowed a minute ago about, these are like some of my favorite episodes that we do, because if you've been listening to us for a while, you know, sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we do like movie reviews. Sometimes we talk about music like we just did recently. You never know what we're going to talk about. You just never know. And one of my favorite type of shows that we do, these educational ones that we do, because I end up learning a ton, whether it's through researching the topic or you having researched the topic and I hear about it for the first time as we're recording. So
I'm a researcher.
So you're getting my genuine reactions too on things. But these are some of my favorite type of episodes. So today, what are we talking about, my lady?
We're going to talk about healing plants. And I'm going to be very cautious in how I word my words, because I don't want anything getting taken down. I don't want anything, people trying to like say that I'm giving
medical advice and what have you.
No. So I do want to begin by saying that the information I'm sharing here, it's not medical advice in any way, shape, or form, nor is it any way to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any illness or disease. We are simply sharing information that we've learned over the years about how plants help us and how it's known to help other people. So we say this all the time. Always do your own research. Don't just take our word for it. Go check it out yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know too, any kind of experiences or anything that we are relaying to you, the audience, are things that maybe we've experienced ourselves. So if we're recounting personal anecdotes or experiences that we've had, this type of stuff, it's our experience. But like you said, I'll reiterate, because you never know who's listening or whatever. This is not medical advice.
Nope.
See your doctor if you have questions or concerns. As always.
Yep.
There you go.
So When I was thinking about healing plants, I just want to get into a little bit of background.
Go.
Yes, because even before we started seeing a naturopath, we learned, especially you, Alex, about more natural ways to heal ourselves without having to go the route of medication. For me personally, I
think medication's the wrong term. Pharmaceutical medication.
Okay, thank you. Pharmaceuticals. For me, I tend to have allergic reactions, and some get really bad. Different I don't really want to get into my own personal, like what I'm allergic to, but so many different medications I've been on, I've either had bad allergic reactions or horrible side effects, like the worst of some of the side effects. So I'm very sensitive to pharmaceuticals, and I just stopped taking pharmaceuticals. I didn't take aspirin. Because a lot of times it didn't work for me either. So I wouldn't take anything. And we started looking into using plants for healing, and then we started seeing a naturopath. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease by my naturopath. Doctors missed it for decades. And I was basically made to think by a lot of healthcare providers that it was psychosomatic. It was in my head that I had Lyme disease. It was in my head something was wrong. But after seeing the naturopath and going through all the tests and everything, she thought it was Lyme disease. I went on a natural herbal medication to help with it. And one of the plant medicines I did have an allergic reaction to, but it was so mild. It was like, oh, my skin feels a little itchy. It's just a little kind of pinkish red. And she was like, yeah, I think you're allergic to this plant. You're having a reaction. I'm like, oh, okay. So we had to go on to something different. But compared to the allergic reactions I had from pharmaceuticals, it was like night and day. It wasn't like I had to go to the doctors right away or to the hospital. I didn't, it was like, oh, I've got like a little mild, tiny, almost hardly noticeable rash. So
I'm wondering, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm wondering if that's because with a plant medicine, for example, the extract or whatever that's taken out that you were using, if you think about like the pharmaceutical equivalent, it's synthetic typically, and it's so much more concentrated. So maybe that's why side effects are so much more severe.
It's possible.
I don't know.
I just
know
that it was so much better. It was like, man, if I was going to have an allergic reaction, I'd prefer it like this and very mild. And I've been very fortunate with taking plants for healing where I haven't had the reactions compared to pharmaceuticals. So that was just some of my own personal story. But I do want to say it's important to know that when it comes to plant medicine, plants don't always work instantly compared to some over-the-counter medications or pharmaceuticals. Sometimes it takes time, but it will work. And even treating my Lyme disease using healing plants, I had to, it wasn't like, oh, boom, a week or two goes by and it's better. It took a long time.
It's like over 6 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, because I had to switch medications and, I had to do some different things. So it did take longer. But it did work. And when I use plants to help heal myself, sometimes I feel benefits right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. But to me, I'd rather do that because I know it's safer for me. So that's, my personal choice. We tend to use homeopathic medication, homeopathic remedies for...
I think that's the best way to say a remedy. I think that might be the best term because medication, medicine can be food. Yeah. Food can be, what was it, the famous saying? Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Yeah. Like that famous quote. Was that Hippocrates that said that?
I think so.
Yeah. Where they got the Hippocratic oath from or whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
So today, I have so many plants I could have chose from.
But we narrowed it down, right?
Yeah, we narrowed it down. So I wanted to go over some basic plants that either you might already have growing in your yard or in your home possibly. So these are some of the more basic plants, and all of these plants I'm talking about today, I have either growing inside of my house, outside of my house, in my yard, or both.
Now, let me ask this. Are these plants or herbs or whatever you're going to be talking about, are these, when you say they could be growing in your yard, is that a regional thing or are they pretty much, can they grow pretty much anywhere.
It depends. I think some are regional, but I think some of the regional can grow in a lot of places.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go.
So the first plant I want to talk about is oregano.
I think everybody's heard of oregano.
Most people have it in their pantry or spice cabinet.
Yeah, it's great in like spaghetti sauces and stuff.
Yeah, it's delicious.
But this has a medicinal quality to it?
It has healing properties.
Ooh, let's hear about that.
Oh, and I just want to point out that if I am saying something incorrectly, like some of the Latin names of the plant, I read something that made me feel better about mispronouncing something. And it said, if you mispronounce something, it's probably because you read it in a book. A lot of the stuff that I sometimes mention, I've read about it. I haven't heard other people say it. So I apologize if I mispronounce it. I'm going to do the best that I can.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Oregano is also known as Oreganum vulgare or vulgare, Vulgare. It is not only an excellent herb to season your favorite meals with, but it also has many health benefits as well. The ancient Greeks and Romans used oregano leaves as an antiseptic and for treating skin sores, aching muscles, stomach aches, colds, coughs, and other respiratory diseases. They also used oregano tea with wine for treating snake bites. Oregano belongs to the mint family. It was native to the Mediterranean region, but widely naturalized elsewhere in the temperate northern hemisphere. It is a perennial herb in warmer climates and an annual herb in colder climates. So when I say perennial and annual, perennial means if I plant it outside, it'll grow back each year. Annual means it's one and done. You plant it in the ground, it grows, and that's it. And that's because a lot of the plants, especially herbs that aren't from the U.S., where we live, and we live in a zone 5 because we're in New Hampshire, these plants, they're not really accustomed or adapted to grow hardy outdoors. But a lot of people grow it outside. I'm doing both. I grow some outside for the chickens. I might use it as companion planting in my garden, and I grow some inside as well.
So you said something that caught my attention. We live in a zone 5. What's that?
So when you look at planting, gardening, where you live is zoned out based on the climate. So I believe we're specifically zone 5B. And that
is this
is
like countrywide, nationwide, worldwide? So we're in zone 5B?
Yes.
Okay. Where'd you find this? I've never heard of this before.
Really?
I've never heard of it before.
If you look up like planting and gardening, because certain plants can't live in certain zones. So for me to plant a banana tree outside, those are more tropical regions. A banana tree wouldn't do as well here, and it probably would die. It's not warm enough. And with our harsh winters, some plants can take our harsh winters and then regrow the next year. So depending on where you live in the climate, that determines the best plants that can grow in your region. And that's basically how I plan my garden for our zone. When do I plant it? Always after, chance of frost is done. For us, where we live, that's usually May. And then frost usually can come anywhere from September to November up here. So we have a short season. And then if you go further north, it gets shorter.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for clarifying that.
Absolutely. And I do want to mention oregano being a Mediterranean herb. I noticed when we got together and I started cooking Greek food, how much oregano is used in dishes. But it's delicious and I love it. But a lot of oregano.
Yes. It's good. Very good.
It is good. Oregano has been shown to help with cardiovascular protection, cancer prevention, and lowering gastrointestinal inflammation. And it has been shown to possess several bioactive properties, including antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and I'm going to try to say it right, analgesic properties.
So when you say these things, or when anybody makes these health claims, is there a specific amount, Or is it just it's been shown to, but they never say the amount? That's what I've always found. Like, what's the active and like what's the amount, the effective dose?
And it depends how you're taking it. Because if you're using it for skin and you're making a poultice with it, you'll use what you need for the wound.
What's
if you're
a poultice?
A poultice is basically where you mash up the plant and you make it like a paste sort of. You can use it to make, you can use a plant to make salves. You can make tinctures, teas, and I'm going to go over all of that towards the end of the episode.
I'll stop asking questions.
No, it's okay.
Okay, go ahead. So they never really tell you. It just depends on how you're taking it in.
Well,
so like if I put a little bit of oregano in my spaghetti sauce, is that going to help me with my all those things you just listed?
Probably not that little amount, because when you're doing a tincture or something like that, it's more concentrated. So typically when you make a tincture, you add a certain amount of the plant to a certain amount of alcohol or vinegar or whatever you're using. And then based off that, you'll take so many drops of that tincture so many times a day. And that's how they'll get that dosing when you're doing it yourself.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. All right.
Oregano oil is an excellent way to take in the benefits of this plant, and it can also be taken in as a tea, tinctures, and oregano is smokable.
Smokable?
Yes, a lot of plants are smokable.
Like you crush it up and roll it up and smoke it?
You dry it and you smoke it.
So most people, if you do that, there's a health benefit to that?
Yes.
Or is it like one of those, like there's a more of a psychosomatic type effect?
No, there are health benefits.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You can also mix oregano with other herbs like yarrow, basil, rosemary, and calendula to make to use in a pelvic steam, and that can help with hemorrhoids and it can help with vaginal cleaning. But it's not recommended to use essential oils for a vaginal steam, only the dried or fresh plants, because
okay. Did not know we were going there.
I'm just saying different things.
What the hell is a vaginal steam?
So a pelvic steam.
Yeah, what's that? I've never heard of this.
You basically take hot water, you can put the plants in it, you get a steam, and you kind of sit over it. You can sit. Okay. And you allow the steam to go onto your body.
Okay. And that will clean the area?
Yes, and it can help heal it.
Interesting. Okay.
You can do soaks too.
I've never heard of this. This is why I'm asking, because I'm just like, what? Okay. All right. Like I said, I learned something new every time we do one of these.
Oregano oil can be added to bath water and humidifiers or diffusers, and that can help clear the lungs as well. And essential oregano oil should not be taken internally because it can be toxic to the liver. So be careful. Like, they have the oils that you get that are in the glass bottles, and those are used for like diffusers, for the aroma of it, essential oils, compared to if you were to buy a capsule of oregano oil or press your own oil. It's different ways to utilize the plant and get the essence of it. It's two totally different things. So you don't want to go to Whole Foods or Amazon and get essential oil of oregano and then take that internally. And it's recommended anytime you use an essential oil on your skin, always mix it with a carrier oil.
What would be an example of a good carrier oil?
You can use coconut oil, olive oil. I sometimes use vitamin E. You can use castor oil.
So oregano, it's a strong antiviral too, isn't it?
Yes, and that is something that we take. We take oregano oil when we're starting to feel sick or we feel like maybe some kind of infection.
Yes.
Is coming on. Yes. So
yeah, it's like we use like this. I think it's called oreganol. I believe that's the name of the name brand. We use like this super strength, so it's like some ridiculously potent amount. But yeah, you take like a couple of those over the course of a few days, and your cold or whatever you're feeling, it goes away rather quickly. Thankfully, that and a bunch of water. Yes, that's what I do, and it's usually gone. It never gets to the point where it's like you're in bed and you have to be bedridden for days.
Mm-hmm. And why don't we use this moment now before we go to the next plant to talk about the ways you can take in herbs. So that way, as it comes up,
sure,
it might be a little more clear.
Sure.
one popular way I like to take my herbs in is making a tea. And you make the tea using plants. So you don't actually use tea leaves. You just typically dry the herbs, and some you can use fresh herbs. And you just put it in hot water, you let it steep, and then you drink it. Sometimes people will use teas to even put on their skin once it's cooled down, but I typically drink my teas. And one thing that I learned that I didn't know before is when you're making tea, you want to cover the top because a lot of the essence of the plant can escape out through the steam. So you cover the top of your mug or container, and that way it all stays in there.
I never knew that. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And one of the teas when I wasn't feeling good that I made, and it is delicious, I made a tea using sage, catnip, and mullein with some honey. And it's very good. And I'll be going over those plants as well. Capsules are another way you can take in plant medicine or plant healing. There's capsules with oils and capsules with the ground dried herb in it. And I actually have made capsules, getting the empty capsules that you take apart and you put the ground dried herb in it. That is a pain in the butt. It is a lot easier if you're going to do capsules, typically just to buy it. But if you want to do it on your own, you absolutely can. I don't have any equipment to press to get oil, so I don't do oils personally.
It's seriously, it's like you said, it's just so much easier to just buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you really want to go through all that time and effort, it's so much easier. Just buy it.
And I'm a tea and tincture girl, so those are the easiest things for me. And speaking of oils, you can do oil infusion, and that is when you soak the herb or herbs in an oil such as olive oil, castor oil, coconut oil, or whichever oil you prefer. If you're going to take it internally, I don't recommend castor oil. Maybe an olive oil or coconut oil. And you want to keep in mind, as I said before, when you're dealing with oils, there's the pressed oils that you can take internally, and then there are essential oils that you don't want to take internally, and oil infusions.
So how can you tell the difference?
Well, typically an essential oil.
Will it say like on the label, not for human consumption?
It should say like not for ingestion.
Okay.
And if it says essential oil, that's a sign right there.
So if you buy something that says essential oil, don't take it internally.
Yeah, you don't want to, unless it's a type of oil that is edible. You want to make sure it's an edible oil. And the oil infusion, so some people do that with olive oil, and they'll put like rosemary and oregano, and like for like when the bread, that's an oil infusion. But you can do it for different things.
Okay.
Yep. And another thing you can do oil infusions for is making ear drops. So if you want to reduce inflammation and pain and ear infections, add garlic, St. John's wort, and there's different herbs you can mix together. Those make good oil infusions. And then there are tinctures. So there's typically 3 ways.
What's a tincture?
Tincture.
Yeah, that.
Well, there's 3 ways to do it. You can use alcohol, vinegar, or glycerate. So some tinctures work together when you combine alcohol and glycerin, but what you're doing, the way I do a tincture, I use alcohol. So I take the herb and then I soak it in alcohol for a period of time, and it's like making an extract, so to speak. So I make vanilla extract, I soak the vanilla beans in alcohol for a long period of time, I got vanilla extract. That's how I do a lot of my tinctures.
So a tincture is like one of those little glass vials kind of thing, and
you take the drops.
Like a dropper. So it's getting like almost like a super concentrate kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned vanilla. How long do you soak vanilla for before it's ready?
Some people let theirs sit for 6 weeks. For me, the longer the better. So if it's been sitting for 6 months, that's a good, like it's nice and dark for my vanilla extract.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can also smoke herbs. So when I say smoking herbs, you can use a pipe, and they have these dry vape pens for dry herbs. You could use something like that where you can actually control the temperature, which is optimal because some plants need to burn at certain temperatures. So, for example, catnip, you want to have that heated between 260 degrees to 305 degrees Fahrenheit. Basil, though, probably better if it's heated closer around 266 degrees. So you can see it varies for different herbs, the temperature where they're most optimal at. But you don't want a high temperature because that's also not good for your lungs and it's just going to burn the plant. But you can use the dry herbs if you want to smoke it. And you can mix different herbs together.
It's funny when you say smoking herbs. I don't think that's what comes to most people's
I know
minds.
people think cannabis, but these are these are regular plants that you can grow and they have health benefits for you.
Outstanding. Yes.
All right. The next plant I want to talk about is rosemary. Rosemary is also known as Rosmarinus officinales. And it's another well-known herb commonly used in cooking. But this plant is also known to help with hair growth, improve circulation, relieve joint and muscle pain, help with gum disease, hypertension, gout, headaches, eczema, and coughs. Rosemary is a perennial evergreen shrub that is a member of the sage family. And it's native to the Mediterranean region. Again, another Mediterranean plant. But it's also well known in Portugal and northwestern Spain. But now it's a common plant grown in gardens across the U.S. Rosemary is an anti-spumatic and mild analgesic herb. It is commonly used to help with migraines, insomnia, and depression. Rosemary has significant antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-apoptotic. I don't know if I'm saying that word right. Anti-apoptotic.
Apoptotic.
Oh, thank you.
I think. Apoptotic.
And neuroprotective properties. Furthermore,
I like how you just, okay.
I'll just let you say it for me.
All right. Apoptotic.
Furthermore, it shows important clinical effects on mood, learning, memory, pain, anxiety, and sleep. Using this herb in a tonic is often used by elderly people because it's believed to help improve circulation to the brain and helps protect the brain and blood vessels. And it's recommended that rosemary should not be used by pregnant women or those trying to become pregnant because some studies show it can induce miscarriage. Rosemary tinctures have been used to combat bacterial infections, including staph infections, and some reports show in lab analysis that the antioxidants in rosemary have been shown to protect cells from damage caused by free radicals. Aromatherapy with rosemary essential oil is useful for enhancing mood, memory, and focus. And essential oil of rosemary can be useful to stimulate the scalp and to help reduce dandruff. Like I said before, essential oil should not be confused with rosemary-infused cooking oil or other infused oil. And rosemary in both tea and capsule form have been used to alleviate digestive distress such as heartburn, gas, and constipation. So that's some of the helpful properties of this plant.
Apoptotic.
Thank you.
The second P is silent.
Okay. Again, I'm reading it, haven't heard it. I read about these things. Common sage, also known as Salvia officinalis, has been used in traditional medicine for the relief of pain, protecting the body against oxidative stress, free radical damages, inflammation, and bacterial and viral infections. Sage is a member of the mint family, and it's a perennial herb native to the Mediterranean. A lot of these herbs are Mediterranean. And it prefers a sunny, free-draining soil. But again, just like oregano and rosemary, it's pretty much found anywhere. And the genus name for sage comes from the Latin word salvare, which means to save or heal. Sage is great for cooking, cleansing the air, and for many of its health benefits. And I just want to say that with sage, I use it for cleansing the air a lot. Some people call it kind of woo-woo, but it does have properties known to clean the air. So Whether you want to just make it smell a little fresher in the house, clean out the air, or you want to get some bad mojo out, burn some sage, put some good intention in there.
There you go.
And there's a nice little story or a legend attached to the sage plant that I found, so I wanted to share that. When Mary was fleeing from Herod, no other plant would give shelter but sage. The Virgin Mary told the sage plant, "From now to eternity, you will be the favorite flower of mankind. I give you the power to heal man of all illness and save him from death, as you have done for me." And I thought that was a fun story because when you think about plants and how they really do help and heal, that's a lovely little story because I think a lot of people don't think of sage as a healing plant. And white sage is often used for purification and protective purposes, but it was once thought as the most important medicinal herbs of medieval Europe. And it was thought that sage had the power to cure all imaginable diseases. Sage appears to have an effect on, I'm going to try to say it, acetylcholine, one of the chemical messengers, a neurotransmitter in the brain, and supplementing with sage can result in significant improvement in cognitive function. Some scientific studies have shown that certain parts of the sage plant can inhibit cancer cell growth in test tube studies. Those components include carnosol, rosmarinic acid, and ursolic acid, and it's been shown to have activity against certain types of cancer cells. So something with what I just said, there are plant properties that do different things. They act in different ways. So when people say, well, how does this plant help? Well, if you break it down in a scientific standpoint, it breaks down into these different things that react to illnesses, and that's how it combats it. So when people think, oh, plant medicine is woo-woo, it's really not. It's scientific, and that's where a lot of pharmaceuticals got the origins of doing everything. It was all plant medicine before they became pharmaceuticals and started making synthetic medications and pharmaceuticals. Sage tea may be gargled to soothe a sore throat, and it has a long history of being helped to treat with coughs and sore throats. And you can make a mouthwash containing sage oil, peppermint oil, menthol, chamomile, and express juice from echinacea. You can also add in some myrrh, clove oil, and caraway oil to help treat gingivitis. Sage is also a gas-relieving herb that may be helpful in calming an upset stomach. And it was used by herbalists externally to treat sprains, swelling, ulcers, and bleeding. It was also used by herbalists for rheumatoidism, excessive menstrual bleeding, and to help dry up a mother's milk when nursing was stopped. It was particularly noted for strengthening the nervous system, improving memory, and sharpening the senses. And sage essential oil is high in the plant compound known as thujone, which also has many benefits. However, high amounts of that can cause convulsions. So you want to be careful when using essential oil. The thujone found in sage essential oils has a regulatory effect on hormones, which makes it extremely useful for menstrual and menopause problems. And it has a stimulatory effect on the digestive system. So it can be diluted in a pure carrier oil, rubbed into the abdomen to relieve digestive upset, and diffusion in aromatherapy oil burner will purify and cleanse the space. It can also help calm the nerves and help with grief or depression and help sharpen the mind and gain mental focus. And sage often is used as a tea, tincture, and essential oil. So it can be used as an astringent in mouthwash if you do want to make your own. But again, because certain extracts can have a high concentration of the thujone, you want to be careful because it could have a toxic effect in high doses. And it should be avoided by pregnant women and nursing mothers, as before it was said that it can dry up breast milk. So sage does so much depending on how you want to use it.
It's incredible how just pretty much anything you need, you can find in nature.
Yeah.
You just got to look.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go over a plant that we have growing outside in our yard, and we have a lot of it. There's actually two I'm going to talk about, but this is the first one. Evening primrose.
I've heard of evening primrose oil.
A lot of people have the evening primrose oil. It's also known as Oenothera biennis, and it's a perennial plant native to North and South America, and it also grows throughout Europe and parts of Asia. It has these beautiful yellow flowers that open up at sunset and close during the later in the day, and the oil that most people know it for. The oil from the evening primrose seeds contains omega-6 fatty acids, including gamma-linoleic acid, also known as GLA. Evening primrose is cultivated for the GLA, which is a very valuable fatty acid that's not found in many plants. The seed oil is sold for skincare use, in cosmetics, and also in soft gels as a dietary supplement. Poultices can be made from the leaves for bruises and wounds, and its leaves can be used for topical remedies for skin inflammation. The leaves can be taken orally for gastrointestinal problems and sore throats. And in the 17th century, evening primrose oil became a popular folk remedy in Europe, where it was known as the king's cure-all.
I actually took evening primrose oil when I was younger.
Really?
Because I was getting really, really dry skin. And I worked at a GNC when I was like 19. And I remember reading, because, you work at GNC, you got to learn about all the stuff that you're selling to people. So I was reading about evening primrose oil and how people take it for just like as a dietary supplement for fat. And at the time, I was really eating a super low fat diet, very high protein, carbs, but very low fat. So I was trying to get really, really shredded and in shape. And apparently I wasn't getting enough fat in my diet, so my skin was just getting really dry. So I would supplement with some evening primrose oil. Within a couple of weeks, it cleared up.
Yeah, well, because the oil is actually used for acne, for the GLA, and because it helps moisturize the mucous membranes. And the oil can help with skin elasticity, cell structure, and improve nerve function. And it's also sold as a supplement often to promote atopic dermatitis, a type of eczema, to help with healing that or soothing that. The oil can be used for rheumatoid arthritis, premenstrual syndrome, PMS, breast pain, menopause symptoms, and other conditions. And the oil may also be included in products that are applied to the skin. So you can take it directly, just the oil, but a lot of it is also used in other products.
Mm-hmm.
It's also known, as I said before, to help with PMS, to help ease headaches, bloating, irritability, breast tenderness. But on the flip side, it can also help with menopause symptoms, including night sweats, hot flashes, mood swings, and fluid retention. And the entire plant is edible. Evening primrose has been cultivated for its nutritious edible roots. Now, I have pulled up evening primrose root, and it is very, I guess the best way I could put it, very peppery to me. It was kind of spicy. The first year roots can be peeled and boiled for 20 to 30 minutes, and you can serve it with butter. And people say it's sweet, peppery, and delicious when boiled like a potato. I didn't boil mine, but definitely very peppery. And I've tried the leaves as well, and the leaf had a peppery taste. I just pick it off and chew on it. Did have a peppery taste to it. But the early leaves can be cooked and eaten as greens, and also used to make tea. Evening primrose flowers are also a sweet addition to salads or used as a garnish. And the young seed pods can be served steamed. The seeds can also be used as a substitute for poppy seeds on baked goods. And evening primrose oil has a short shelf life of about 6 months or less, so you want to keep it refrigerated to prevent it from growing rancid. And the next plant I want to talk about, which is growing right along the evening primrose outside, is mugwort. When we first came up here, there was a lot of mugwort. And it's just spreading and spreading and spreading. It's just everywhere. And at first I thought, oh, this is great. I can harvest it and dry it, which I did. And then there's just so much of it that I thought, I'll just take it when I need it, dry it out. We have plenty.
So what's it good for? I mean, it's got quite the name, mugwort.
I know.
So is that MUGWORT?
Yes.
Okay. See, that's the thing. Anytime I hear wort, like St. John's wort, mugwort, I always think
WART.
WART, and I'm like, that's kind of gross sounding, but it's not the same thing.
Well, common mugwort, also known as Artemisia vulgaris, is a perennial plant from the aster family that grows in abundance on our property. And we also have a ton of aster. So that kind of makes sense. Usually you can see purple or white flowers around our property for the aster that we have. And mugwort also has a great importance in the history of medicine and was called the mother of herbs in the Middle Ages. And it's a cousin of wormwood and St. John's wort, but it has slightly different chemical constitutes. So around 1,000 years ago, medieval brewers used mugwort to make beer or ale called gruit. Because this beer was served and enjoyed in a mug, it was thought that that's how mugwort got its name, wort meaning plant or herb in Old English. And during the Roman Empire,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, again,
Sorry.
I have books on books on books on books of plant medicine, healing plants. And I actually found that because I was looking online to see if like any more history or folklore. And that's where I got some of this information. So it's always like, oh, okay, that's good to know.
Interesting.
Yeah. During the Roman Empire, Greek physician, surgeon, and philosopher Galen, am I saying that right? Galen?
I believe so.
Reported the use of mugwort for amenorrhea, which is absent menstruation. And it was also noted as being used in Roman times by soldiers using it as a foot salve in their sandals to help their feet from getting tired. And it's also said that mugwort was named for the Greek goddess of the moon, Artemis. And in respect of this herb's benefits to women's health, especially menstruation, childbirth, and menopause, when you think about how helpful it is for these things. And the Latin name is Artemisia. So that makes sense too, being named after Artemis. Historically, it's been a plant that's been used as an herbal inhibitor for menstrual cycles and to help provide relief of symptoms of menopause. And it was considered a universal herb for protection and prophecy and used for pain, healing, psychic powers, and lucid dreaming. So when I first learned about using mugwort, it was to help promote lucid dreaming, and people would use it for enhancing psychic abilities. And I'm already a lucid dreamer. I have vivid dreams. I remember my dreams. So I thought, I don't really need this for me. But
imagine if you took it. Would it amplify what you already have, I wonder?
Well, I've burned
You should
it.
try it.
I've burned it in incense, but not before I sleep. So maybe I will try that.
You could be like, I don't know. What would amplify what you already have?
I don't know. I don't know. Do I want to do
Do you
that?
even want to?
Do I want to amplify my already vivid, wild dreams?
Yes.
I don't know. Mugwort is used as a raw material due to the presence of essential oil, flavonoids, and I'm going to try to say this right, sesquiterpenoids, lactones, and their associated biological activities. And it has been listed as a potential homeopathic raw material with uses in traditional Chinese, Hindu, and European medicine to regulate the functioning of the GI system and help treat various gynecological diseases. It has antioxidant, hepaprotective, antispasmodic, estrogenic, cytotoxic, antibacterial, and antifungal effects. It's used to help with arthritis and joint pain, like we said before, menstruation, kidney support, leg fatigue relief, and digestive health. And mugwort is often used as a uterine tonic and an emmenagogue, which is a substance that stimulates or increases menstrual flow. And with all other herbs, it's advised do a pregnancy test before you start taking mugwort because it can induce miscarriage.
What?
Yeah, if you take in mugwort, it could certain plants.
So what you're saying is if you're a female, take a pregnancy test to make sure you're not pregnant before you take mugwort?
Yes.
Because if you are pregnant and you don't know it, you could have a miscarriage
Yes,
if
thank
you
you.
take mugwort. Okay, just want to clarify.
Because a
make
lot
sure.
of plants that help with the menstrual system, they can cause miscarriage. So you want to be really careful.
So if you're taking a plant like this and you're a man, you don't have menstrual problems, it's not going to have any kind of a negative effect on your, say, your urinary system or anything like that, right? Like we'll say down in there in that region, you don't have the lady parts. It's not going to affect your man parts in any way, is it?
It shouldn't,
Okay.
unless the
I'm just
specific
asking.
plant, unless you research the plant and it says
It seems like a lot of these you're taking for menstrual problems and vaginal healing and all this other stuff.
Because
like,
that's
all right.
part of what it does.
All right. I just want to make sure that there's no adverse effects, hopefully, for a man if they're taking it for, not for that particular purpose, but for some other purpose.
And mugwort is chlorhydric, which is a substance that increases the volume of secretion of bile from the liver, helping transport and release toxins, whilst proving to be a great benefit to the digestive system. And it's also a cholagogue, which is a substance that stimulates the flow of bile from the liver, differing slightly from the chlorhydric, which increases the volume. The secretion of bile is a great help to the whole digestive and assimilation process because obviously what we eat, we need to digest. And the role of bile is help facilitating fat digestion. But also being a natural laxative, it's cleaning to the system. So mugwort is also a bitter digestive that can relieve stomach acidity, dyspepsia, travel sickness, and acute bowel and stomach pain.
Now, I have to ask,
Yes.
because we haven't really talked about any of them up to this point, what about side effects to any of these? Like you mentioned, you had a small allergic reaction and side effect to something that you tried. But you're listing all the health benefits and things. Are there any side effects we need to be aware of with any of these?
Always be side effects. And that's why you have to do your own research. You have to do what's right to you. If you have a doctor, check with your doctor. If you have a naturopath, check with your naturopath. If you don't believe in modern medicine or whatever, just do your own research. And if you are going to try something, then to use in a healing way, I always recommend, this is what I do. I just use a little. I try it. I'll try a little tea. How do I feel after? Okay.
So there's not like any known side effect. Like if you watch a pharmaceutical commercial, they give you this list of side effects at the end. Is there anything like that with these, or is it pretty much just on an individual basis?
It's depending on the plant, on the person, and they have certain properties. So like with
list
mugwort,
like a common side effect.
Well, depending on the plant. So for mugwort, if you're pregnant, don't take it. It could induce miscarriage.
Okay. But that's obviously not all plants, just depending on the plant. Okay.
No. And then, for example, I had mentioned with the sage, it has the thujone, which, again, in high amounts, it could be toxic. So every plant is different. You want to read about it. You want to research it. You want to see if there's anything about it that would not be right for you. Any plant that we personally take, I do a lot of research on it. I just don't F around and find out. I read, I learn, I try to find out as much as possible about everything that it does. And could that have a negative effect? There's always a chance for allergic reaction. But unfortunately, you typically don't know if you're allergic to something until you have a reaction, unless it's in a certain family. So if you're allergic to mint, anything that's in the mint family, you probably want to avoid.
Makes sense. So as always, do your homework. People.
Yes.
Do your homework.
Can't say that enough. Mugwort leaves can be made into a tea by infusing the leaves and boiling the water. And as I said before, cover the lid, keep everything in there. And mugwort tea can help if you drink before a meal. It can help aid in digestion. And mugwort can be smoked to promote relaxation. And mugwort oil can be used as an insect repellent.
It's always helpful.
Yes. I have so many, and we've been going almost an hour, so I'm going to skip a few. So I'm just going to probably just do 2 more. The next one is catnip. I freaking love catnip. And everyone's thinking, catnip? What? The stuff I give my cats to make them go crazy? Yes. But don't go to your pet store and buy catnip for this.
Come on.
No. I grow my own catnip. And they make such beautiful, lovely flowers when they grow. Catnip, also known as Nepeta cataria, is a perennial herb that's part of the mint family, and it's useful to take as a tea for relieving colds and fevers. It induces perspiration, it helps cool an overheated body, and has a gentle sedative effect that can be helpful, especially if you're not feeling good, because it can help calm and bring people into sleep when they're dealing with a fever. It has a long traditional use as a child's remedy for colds, fevers, and colic. And this plant is, like I said, this is one of my go-tos. I grow my own, I dry it, the flowers are gorgeous, and the tea has this light lemony mint flavor. So when my family's sick, depending on what's going on, but one of my go-to teas is I take catnip and mullein, and I mix those. And depending on what else is going on, I might add another herb in, and I just steep it in the hot water, add some honey. And when my kids are sick, even Alex, when you were sick, I made you catnip tea. And how did you feel after? Do you remember?
Much better. Definitely was a relief.
And
sure,
it is a sedative. It will make you feel like, ooh, I'm sleepy. So earlier when I mentioned how some plants, when you use them for healing, you might not feel the effects right away. Catnip and a tea, by the time you finish that cup, you typically should be feeling it. At least on our end, when we take it here, we feel it. And it's delicious. Catnip has been used as a remedy for coughs, sore throats, fevers, headaches, pneumonia, diarrhea, asthma, toothaches, nervousness, colic, and it topically can help heal wounds. It's often taken in the form of a hot infusion to promote sweating, and it has a long history of fever remedy, especially if there's a fever with a chill. It brings warmth and comfort with cold aches and cramps. And taken hot can also help relieve nasal congestion. Catnip's a great remedy for painful gas and spasms in the digestive tract, dispelling and preventing further buildup of gases. And like some other members of the mint family, it is a carminative, meaning it prevents the formation of gas in the digestive tract or assists in the release of gas. It relaxes muscles, helps soothe them, especially in the gut, and it relieves discomfort by excessive wind and bloating, so it helps relax all of that. It is the volatile oil component of this plant that has that effect. It has been used to help calm asthma and bronchitis because it's also a nervine, which helps calm the nervous system. And even though it does help calm the nervous system, it's said that the root of the plant can cause stimulation. And some have said that chewing the root can make the most gentle person fierce. So it can really get them fired up.
That's awesome.
The root is not typically used these days. So I know when I use catnip, I just use the leaves, and sometimes I'll use the flowers. That's what I use it for. But it's helpful for relaxation. It can help with anxiety, stress, insomnia. And you can also make a bath soak. You can mix it with kava, lavender, chamomile, rose, Epsom salts. Use that to just help relax you. And it can also be used in enemas if you have a fever. And of course, you can always make a tincture. A fresh leaf tincture is good for the GI system because of its antispasmodic properties. But those properties can be lost if you use a dry leaf to make your tincture. So before I said sometimes it doesn't matter if it's a fresh leaf or a dry leaf, this is one of those instances where it does make a difference. And the last plant I'll talk about today is mullein. Mullein, also known as Verbascum thapacus, is native to Europe, North Africa and Asia, but now it grows pretty much everywhere. We have it growing in our yard.
This stuff is interesting.
Yes. It's a biannual plant that grows on average about 6 feet during its second year. But during its first year, it stays pretty low to the ground, and the plant will produce flowers and seeds. Then it will die after the second year. I find it easy to identify because it's so soft to the touch and it looks so soft too. I call it Nature's Charmin, which is funny because some people say use it as toilet paper. After the pandemic, they were like, oh, don't got toilet paper? Go use mullein. And some do find that the tiny little hairs on the leaf that help make it so soft can cause irritation. I personally have very sensitive skin. I've never had a reaction touching mullein before.
So maybe don't use it as toilet paper.
But you can err on the side of caution, or you can F around and find out. But if you touch it, you think it might be irritating, you can just scrape off those little hairs before using it. If it doesn't bother you, you don't have to do that. Everybody is different. Find your preference. Mullein has a history of being used for a variety of issues, including pulmonary problems, inflammatory diseases, asthma, cough, diarrhea, and migraine headaches. It's commonly known for its use with lung health because of its antispasmodic properties. And it can also be used as an expectorant, which is what helps when you're coughing up phlegm, getting that out. And it's a demucilant, which is what helps the mucous membrane irritation. And again, some things that mullein is commonly used to help people with: dry coughs, bronchitis, pneumonia, colic, tuberculosis, COPD, whooping cough, chest congestion, asthma from smoking, hoarseness, and lung inflammation. And I've said before, I use it in teas. Anytime we're sick, have any cough, and any kind of cold that feels like it's getting in our lungs, I make a tea with that, and it does help us. The leaves and flowers are the most well-known parts of this plant for medicinal purposes, but the root can also be used. Personally, I collect the leaves, I wash them, dry them, and I use them in teas and tinctures. And mullein tea is just a great way to utilize this plant, and it's super easy. I pick mine from outside, I wash it, I dry it, I really dry it because we have a dehydrator, and then I put it in a glass jar and I use it when I need it. For the skin, mullein is a good anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. Its anti-inflammatory medicinal properties are from the flavones or flavonoids and flavonols presented in the plant. I know I'm so bad with reading these words. I apologize for butchering. These two qualities make it a good choice for some skin wounds and skin inflammation. It can help with reducing swelling and inflammation of wounds, help with burns, and help with eczema, especially used externally as a poultice or cream. And because mullein is an astringent, it can be helpful for diarrhea in both humans and livestock. So we don't utilize mullein for that reason, but that doesn't take away from any of the benefits, especially if you're sick. Adding mullein to your tea with other herbs overall is just wonderful. Us personally, it does a lot for us, but it can also help with hemorrhoids, and it can help your pets and livestock if they have been known to have rectal prolapse, which, having worked in veterinary medicine for many years, that is something more common than you think it should be with animals. But don't listen if you're eating. But where the rectum can start to come out and it has to get put back in. So by infusing mullein and olive oil, you can use that oil infusion over the area because it helps relax the muscles to get it back in place. So if you have an animal and you're used to doing that yourself, you can try using the mullein in the oil infusion. However, if you're not used to dealing with that, go see a vet or somebody who knows what they're doing. You never want to cause harm.
Jeez, yeah. The stuff is really soft. You brought in a couple of the leaves a couple of days ago, and couldn't believe how soft it was. It was really, really cool.
And I want to now talk about the root. Mullein root has been shown to be helpful for seizures and convulsions, as well as helping with muscle stiffness, cramping, pain to the face and head and jaw, and some facial nerves. So It's believed that there are 2 specific times you should gather mullein root. One is at the end of its first year when it's going dormant for the winter. And if you miss harvesting it at that time in the autumn, you can try harvesting it at the beginning of the second year growth in the spring. You can tell the first year growth from the second year growth because the leaves on your first year plants will be smaller in comparison to a second year's larger plants. And it emerges from the ground with these large, fully formed leaf rosettes. Mullein root is also specifically used for lower back pain and inflammation. But mullein seeds are considered poisonous because they contain rotenone. So do not use the seeds.
What will happen if you do?
Well, they're poisonous.
So like poisonous as in like lethal.
That's how I took poisonous.
Oh, I'm just making. All right.
Gee, I don't think anyone wants to figure out how it affects them.
Nope. You're right.
Yeah. Tinctures, teas, and smoking are good ways to take in mullein for its beneficial properties. Oil infusions and poultices are good for the skin, muscles, and joints. And I don't think I went over before a poultice, but I've made a poultice before with yarrow.
The stuff where you put on your skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went over it. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I went over that. So that's just a quick list. I mean, I didn't even go over that many of plants that most people know what they are. It could be growing on their property. They might be growing some in their home, or it could be in their spice cabinet. But these plants are known for healing. And when you use them in the right way, they can be extremely beneficial.
For sure. I mean, it's incredible the uses that you can have. I really don't like using the word medicinal just because I'm afraid, and I hate to say that, but I'm afraid that it's going to be misconstrued or taken in a way that it's not intended. Mm-hmm. But it's true. That's what they are. They have those type of properties and different ways that they can heal you, alleviate symptoms, sometimes outright cure you, depending on what exactly it is that you're dealing with. But for me, it's just a much better way to go, a much more natural way to go if you're looking to heal your body. Again, that's my opinion. That's been my experience, and I've had a good experience. But as always, like we said earlier in the show, we encourage you to do your own research. If you're having some type of health issue, consult a medical professional, be that a naturopath, be that your primary care doctor. But always do your research and always consult with somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Because even under the care of a naturopath, I still had an allergic reaction to a plant medicine. And granted, it wasn't as bad, but these things can happen. And like I said, if you have a known allergy to a certain kind of plant, look at what family it's from. Is it from the same family? Because if you have something, like I said, from the mint family, well, there's a lot of stuff you might not realize is from the mint family. That's a big family. So you might not think, oh, oregano, mint family, but
never would have guessed that.
There you go, right? Yeah. I know when I do my research, when I'm learning about these plants, I'm often surprised about learning the families because I think, wow, mint is very invasive. And then I start thinking about how a lot of these other plants connected to the mint family grow. And yes, they're very invasive. They are just like, make way. I'm coming through.
Outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd say that was pretty educational for me. I learned a bunch.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, let me know because I have so many other plants.
I'm sure we'll do a part 2 of this in the future, I'm sure. But until next time, I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.
We love hearing from and interacting with our hearers and watchers. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter
at HomewreckerPod.
You can also visit our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com,
where you can check out past episodes and pick up some Homewrecker podcast gear from our online store.
Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're hearing or watching our show. That way you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check out the video versions of our show at YouTube and Brighteon.
You can also find Monique in a few places online as well.
I'm on Twitter @_MoniqueGiselle_. If you're interested in a tarot reading, organite, incense, candles, and other cool things, you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. Or if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com to schedule a free 20-minute consult. And follow me on Twitter @MoniquePCHT. And Alex, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @TheAlexArion, and you can check out my website, AlexArionFitness.com.
And if that's too much to remember, we get it. That's why we put it all in our show notes.
Thanks for spending your time with us, and we appreciate all of your support.
We do. Thank you. We love you. Many people are unaware just how much hypnotherapy can help them, or think it's only to help lose weight or quit smoking. But there is so much more hypnotherapy can do. It can help with stress, anxiety, insomnia, phobias, performance enhancement, connecting with your spirit guides and higher self. You can even discover past lives and your life between lives. Heal traumas, break habits, find your deepest truth, or just have fun discovering who you really are, all from the comfort of your home. I'm Monique Pliakis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I want to help you. Schedule a free consult by going to www.innerstandingshypnosis.com. That's INNERSTANDINGSHYPNOSIS.com. Inner Standings Hypnosis. Find your power and ignite your inner light.